Okay. Can you see the slide, the PowerPoint?
Yes, yes, clearly.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rizka Purnamasari, and I've been involved with notary practices in Kabupaten Bandung Barat for 2 years now. And it's an honor to be here with you all students of University of Bengkulu today to discuss a topic that is essential for anyone considering a career in the notarial profession. Thank you for having me and for showing interest in the ethical aspects of our profession as a notary. So let's start. Now you may wonder why ethics for notaries are important. Well, as notaries, people entrust us with their private information and legal matters. Our job is not just about stamping documents, it's about trust and ensuring that every action we take is honest, impartial, and in the best interest of the public. A notary's reputation and, in fact, the entire profession's image depends on how ethically we perform our duties. This is why understanding and following a strong code of ethics is absolutely essential for every notary. Today, we will try to understand Code Etik Notaris, which is the production from Kongres Luar Biasa Ikatan Notaris Indonesia. And then we will explore into its history, explore its key principles, and use case studies to better understand its application. By the end of our class, I hope that we'll not only appreciate the code of ethics, but also understand its significance in ensuring the credibility of notaries as a profession. Let's begin. So we'll start with okay, let's start with history of notary in Indonesia. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, it starts in from colonial era, when during the Dutch colonial period in Indonesia, the Dutch introduced their system of official documentation and the role of notary. This European style practice was essential for business and legal matters back then. And then next to post-independence era, which is after Indonesia's independence in 1945, there was a need to adapt and create a distinct legal framework. While some Dutch practices persisted, it stays. Some of them, Indonesia also began to shape its own legal identity. And then uh, we establishing our local standard, which was started with Notary Act, which was established in 1961. And then this act underwent a major revision in 2004 and 2014, and now called Undang-Undang Jabatan Notaris atau or UUJN, further defining the responsibility and ethics of notaries. The next one, the history includes the role of Ikatan Notaris Indonesia or INI. Founded in 1951, the Indonesian Notaris Association, known as Ikatan Notaris Indonesia or INI, has been active in guiding and supporting notaris in Indonesia. This association ensures that notaries comply to high standards and best practices. INI has established a code of ethics known as Code Etik Notaris that sets the principle and standards of professional conduct to guide notaries in performance of their duties. And now modern evolution. Today, notaries in Indonesia have a critical role in various legal areas, from land transaction to the establishment of PT of businesses. Their importance has grown with the increasing demand of legal businesses transactions. And then we continue to the next discussion, which is what do notaries do? So many of you might have come across a notary at some point, but do you know what they do? The roles and responsibility of notaries based on the UJN includes first authentications of deeds, which is notaries are authorized to make and issue authentic deeds. These deeds have legal strength and serve as perfect evidence in legal disputes. The next one is neutrality. Notaries must act impartially. They should not have any personal interest they authenticate. We continue to confidentiality, where notaries are bound by professional secrecy. They must maintain the confidentiality of all deeds and information they handle, except in specific circumstances defined by law. Next one, notaries, the role of notaries is archiving and record keeping. Notaries are responsible for keeping the original version or call minuta of all authenticated deeds. They must also maintain special registers known as protocols and repertoire, where they record details of their notarial actions. Next, legal clarification. While notaries don't represent parties like lawyers, they provide legal information and clarity about the deeds they authenticate. They ensure that parties involved, they understand the contents and legal consequences of the deed. And then the next one is verification of identity and willingness. Notaries are required to confirm the identity of parties involved in a deed. They must also ensure that these parties, the clients, are acting willingly and without intimidation. Next, still about what do notaries do. Notaries also can writing outside of deeds, where beside authenticating deeds, notaries can draft other writings or documents based off the parties' wishes, although these writings don't have the same legal strength as authenticated deeds. Next, notaries also can witnessing and verification. Notaries act as official witnesses to the signing of documents, verifying the authenticity of signatures and the identities of signatories. The next one, notaries acting as temporary guardians. In specific cases, notaries can be appointed as temporary guardians, especially when there's no family member available to act in that capacity. The next one, notaries' roles is to continuous professional development. The UJN 2014 emphasizes the importance of continuous learning and professional development for notaries, ensuring they stay updated with legal changes and best practices. The last one, loyal to ethical guidelines. The UJN 2014, together with Code Etik Notaris, lays down ethical standards that all notaries must follow, promoting integrity, trustworthiness, and professionalism. So in conclusion, UU JN 2014 strengthened the role of notaries in Indonesia as impartial and trusted professionals responsible for authenticating deeds, ensuring legal compliance, and protecting the interests of the public. But beyond those roles, the real essence of a notary's job is trust. When someone sees a notary's seal on a document, they believe it's genuine. People come to notaries with their personal and sometimes sensitive information. They expect confidentiality. They trust notaries taking sides. So in essence, the notary's role is to provide trust in many legal and personal transactions. Moving forward, let's explore into the essential of today's discussion, the main ethical guidelines that notaries in Indonesia follow. The Code of Ethics is not just a set of rules, but it's the backbone of how notaries should behave. First code of ethics is confidentiality. Notaries must keep all information they handle as secret. They shouldn't share anything they learn from their clients unless required by law. Imagine sharing personal or business details with someone and they gossip about it. That's a breach of trust. Confidentiality ensures people can trust notaries with their most sensitive information. Next one is honesty and integrity. Notaries should always be truthful. They must avoid actions that could be seen as dishonest or misleading. If a notary is dishonest, it could harm people. For instance, a person might lose their property or money. Honesty ensures fair treatment for everyone. Next code is professionalism. Notaries need to be skilled and up to date in their knowledge. They should always act in a professional manner. A well-informed notary ensures that documents and processes are accurate and valid. Because it will protect people from legal problems in the future. Still the code of ethics. The next one is independence and impartiality. Notaries shouldn't take sides. They must treat everyone equally, regardless of personal feelings or relationships. A notary should be neutral, ensuring justice and fairness. Next one is duty to refuse. Sometimes notaries must say no because if a job goes against the law or ethics, notaries should refuse to do it. This protects the notary, the client, and the entire legal system. It ensures that only valid and ethical tasks are performed. And the last one is duty to society. The role of notaries in guarding societal interests. Notaries don't just serve individual clients, but they serve society at large. They play a crucial role in ensuring that transactions are genuine, care for a sense of security, and trusted within the community. So those 6 principles serve as the pillars for the notarial profession in Indonesia, guiding them in serving both individuals and the greater community with dedication and integrity. Those 6 guidelines shape the behavior of notaries. They ensure not only the smooth operation of legal processes, but also build a bond of trust between notaries and the public. When a notary upholds those 6 principles, they uphold the integrity of the entire profession. Next, understanding the rules is one thing, but seeing them in action is another. Let's explore some real-life scenarios that notaries in Indonesia have faced and see how podetic notaries play an important role in guiding their decisions. The first scenario is the case of the pressured property deal. The scenario is when a notary was once approached to authenticate a property sale. The buyer was in a hurry and offered an extra financial incentive to speed up the process. The seller, however, hadn't provided all the necessary documentation. So the dilemma is, should the notary accept the offer and rush the procedure without complete documents? So let's see how the Code of Ethics guidelines. So guided by the code, referencing the principle of honesty and professionalism, the notary declined the incentive and insisted on having all proper documents in place before proceeding. By doing so, he ensured the legality and integrity of the transaction. Let's see the next scenario. The whispered secret. The scenario is a client shared sensitive financial information with a notary during a debt settlement. Later on, a friend of the notary, curious about the client's affairs, asking for details. The ethical dilemma, should the notary disclose the confidential information to satisfy the friend's curiosity? Let's see the guided by the code, upholding the principle of confidentiality. The notary chose to keep the client's information a secret, keep the client's trust, and preserving the sanctity of the notarial profession. Let's see the next one, the influential businessman. The scenario is a famous businessman wanted a contract notarized that was clearly in his favor and potentially exploitive to the other party. The ethical dilemma, should the notary authenticate the contract considering the influence of the businessman in the community? Guided by the code, keeping in mind the principle of independence and impartiality. The notary decided to advise the businessman on the ethical concerns of the contract. He maintained his impartiality, prioritizing fairness over personal gain. The last scenario, the family transaction. The scenario is your cousin approaches you to notarize a business agreement between him and another party. While going through the document, you notice a few clauses that heavily favor your cousin at the expense of the other party. The other party, seemingly unaware, is ready to sign. How do you handle the situation? Guided by the code, impartiality and serving without prejudice are important for notaries. While it might be tempting to prioritize family ties, it's essential to remain neutral. In this scenario, you could raise the concern about the clauses, suggesting the other party seeks legal advice before proceeding. So these real-life instances serve as reminders of the challenges notaries face daily. However, with the Code of Ethics or Code Etik Notaris as their guidance, they can navigate through ethical dilemmas, ensuring justice, trust, and professionalism. Let's continue to common ethical challenges that notaries face. In a notary's professional journey, they will inevitably encounter challenges that test their ethical boundaries. Recognizing these common problems and knowing how to address them is essential. The first challenge is pressure to speed the processes, like the scenario we had before. It's not uncommon for clients to pressure notaries to speed up process, sometimes even at the expense of legality. The solution is under the principle of professionalism and honesty. Notaries must ensure all processes are completed as per legal requirements, even if it means taking more time. Quick shortcuts can lead to legal complications in the future. The second challenge is bribery and financial inducement. With the rise of business transaction and the urgency in deal closures, some notaries might face offers of extra money, but they have to ignore the law. The solution of this, by upholding the principles of honesty and independence, notaries should always reject any form of bribery. Their decisions should be based solely on the law and ethical guidelines, not financial gains. The third challenge is conflict of interest, where there might be situations where notary knows both parties involved in the transaction personally, potentially influencing their judgment. The solution of this, the principle of independence, dictates that notaries should remain impartial. If a notary feels their judgment might be compromised, they should consider to avoid the situation and suggest another notary, their friend, can handle the case. The fourth challenges is handling sensitive information. Given the nature of their work, notaries often deal with sensitive information, and there might be temptations or external pressures to share or misuse this data. The solution of this is by strictly comply to confidentiality. Notaries should ensure that all information remains private, irrespective of external pressures, because building and maintaining trust is really important for notaries. So being a notary in Indonesia is a position of great responsibility, but with it comes various ethical challenges. Yet, by consistently referring to Kode Etik Notaris and UUJN as guiding principles, notaries can overcome these challenges, ensuring their professional integrity and the trust from the public. Next, let's discuss breaking the rules and what the outcome, what can happen if notaries don't act ethically. Ethics are not just a philosophical concept, they have real world implications. Let's explore the effect for notaries who don't comply to Kode Etik Notaris in Indonesia. The first outcome is legal consequences. By ignoring ethical guidelines isn't just a breach of professional standard, it can also lead to legal consequences. Notaries might face lawsuit, fines, or even imprisonment for certain violations. The next outcome is loss of trust. Trust is the foundation of a notary's relationship with clients. By breaching Kode Etik Notaris, it can damage this trust. Sometimes it can be repaired. Once trust is lost, a notary's reputation suffers. They may find it challenging to attract clients or be viewed as a credible authority in legal matters. Next, consequences is financial consequences. Unethical actions can lead to lost business opportunities. Clients might withdraw their business, and potential clients might be in doubt from engaging from that notary. The loss of clients directly impacts the notary's earning, but there are also potential costs from legal battles, or even fines. The last one is the last outcome is professional isolation. Other notaries, legal professionals, and institutions might distance themselves from a notary that found violating ethical standards. These isolations can make it difficult for the notary to in the future to collaborate on share projects or receive referrals, further affecting their practice. So complying to the code of ethics is not just about doing the right thing, it's about guarding one's career, reputations, and future in the professions. For notaris in Indonesia, the stakes are high and the cost of neglecting ethical standards is even higher. Let's continue to the next discussion by staying updated. Why and how notaries can keep themselves updated. In a world that's constantly evolving, it's important for professionals, especially notaries, to stay in line of the latest developments. Let's explore why and how notaries can keep themselves updated. Why continuous learning is crucial. First, dynamic legal landscape. Laws and regulations aren't static, they change, reflecting the needs and aspirations of society. Notaries must aware of these changes to provide accurate services. Continuous learning. The next one is upholding professionalism. Continuous learning is important to a notary's commitment to their profession. It showcases their dedication and ensures they offer the best possible service to client. Still on discussion why and how notaries can keep themselves updated. About sources for continuous learning. First, workshops and seminars. Regularly attending workshops or seminars tailored for notaries can provide insights into the latest legal updates and best practices. And then notaries can also be in membership in Ikatan Notaris Indonesia, because being a part of professional organization like Ikatan Notaris Indonesia, it provides notaries with access to training session, resources, and a network of peers to learn from. Next one is legal journals and publications. By subscribing to and reading legal journal can offer deep dives into specific legal subjects, case studies, and recent legal developments. The last one is online courses. The digital age offers so many online courses that allowing notaries to learn at their own pace. Continue to the long-term benefits by keeping themselves updated. Is notaries can stay relevant by continuous learning, ensure notaries remain relevant in their field, understanding new challenges and addressing them competently. Also, building trust. When clients know their notary is well informed and updated, it encourages greater trust and confidence in the notary's abilities. So the path to excellence is built by continuous learning. For notaris in Indonesia, staying updated isn't just a recommendation, but it's a necessity. In a profession that relies in trust and expertise, being informed and proactive in learning is the key to success. Okay, as we get closer to the end of discussion, it's time to address any questions or concerns you might have. This is an opportunity for us to dig deeper into specific area or clarify any point discussed. Please, you can raise your hand. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rizka, for the grateful this presentation or slide to inform us related to the notary profession and code of conduct. So right now we go to the second session, meaning that the Q&A, question and answer session. So I will invite the participants or the students of the international class who interest or who has a question to ask the questions to the speakers or the resource person. To students who wanted to ask, you can go in front and go to the microphone to ask Ms. Rizka directly related to your question. Ada pertanyaan? if no, maybe start from me first. I'm just wondering, you said that the confidentiality is one of the important code of conduct for the notary profession. But you said that in some situations or circumstances, is it possible to spill the information, right? When it is asked or required by the law. Can you give us the scenario in what model or condition that you can spill the secret or the information to the public based on the require of the law itself? It is first question. And the second question, do you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The second question is about if we see that in the advocate or lawyer, they have services for the free or pro bono. Does the notary also has the responsibility to give or to allocate the free services? I mean, that like the pro bono services, free services for the society.
Yeah.
Okay, it is two questions from me.
Okay. Okay, I'll try to answer the first question about can the deeds that authenticate that made by notaries can be spilled? Yes, it can. It can. But with I mean, there's some required law that needs to be processed first in order to the notary can give their informations that contain in a deeds to another parties.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I answer in Indonesian?
Oke, it's okay. Ya, pertanyaannya kan tadi confidentiality adalah code of conduct yang penting. Tapi kan dalam kondisi tertentu kamu bilang required by the law, kemungkinan bisa dibuka. Kondisi, maksud keadaan seperti apa yang kemudian boleh dibuka kepada publik?
Memang ada beberapa kondisi di mana akta notaris tersebut bisa diajukan oleh misalnya oleh suatu pengadilan atau oleh kepolisian untuk dibukakan rahasia di dalam akta tersebut gitu. Tapi harus dengan persetujuan dari dewan yang namanya Dewan Pengawas Notaris. Jadi Dewan Pengawas Notaris ini dia berfungsi untuk melindungi hak-hak notaris dan untuk memastikan bahwa notaris ini dapat menjalankan jabatannya itu sesuai dengan UU JN dan kode etik notaris. Di dalam kode etik notaris kan disebutkan bahwa notaris harus merahasiakan isi dari aktanya. Nah, kalau misalnya ternyata ada suatu kasus atau mungkin gugatan yang mengharuskan bahwa notaris tersebut menjadi saksi dalam suatu persidangan, sehingga notaris tersebut harus menyampaikan isi dari aktanya, bisa dilakukan asalkan instansi yang berkepentingan tadi itu meminta izin kepada Dewan Pengawas Notaris. Begitu.
Meaning that it will be approved by the Dewan Pengawas first. Before they spill up.
Betul. They have to process that first.
Okay.
Okay.
The second one.
The second one about pro bono.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually in UU JN dan Kode Etik Notaris disebutkan bahwa memang bagi notaris yang ada kliennya itu memang berada maksudnya kurang mampu, itu notaris wajib memberikan layanan secara cuma-cuma. Memang ada aturannya. Saya akan bagikan nanti, I will share Kode Etik Notaris and also UEJN and also our PowerPoint that I was showcased before, so you can see the regulations there.
Oke, thank you. Ada pertanyaan dari floor? Do you have any question? Yeah, just go inside. Just go in front.
Okay.
First, identify your name and then go to your question.
So, allow me introduce myself. My name is Salma Latifah, and I want to ask.
You can use my microphone. Just go here.
Okay.
Salma Latifah, and I have a question about can notaries be fired if they violate the code of ethics? If they can be fired, and who can be fired a notary?
Oh, sorry, it's not very clear.
Okay,
You mean can notaries be fired?
yeah, and
Yeah.
if they can, who can be fired a notary?
Okay. Thank you for your questions.
Okay. You want to answer first, or you wanted to collect another question? Do you want to answer one by one, or we try to collect first? Hello.
Sorry, I think you're breaking.
Okay. Sorry. You wanted to collect the question first, or you wanted to answer the question one by one?
I think we can collect the questions first.
Okay. Another question, maybe? Yeah. Giver will ask you. Okay. Just go.
Hello, Miss. My name is
Hello.
Ahmad Agifari. Sorry, Miss, I asked this. Is it true notary can make much money more than the like judge and prosecutor and another?
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting questions, right? Because we can see that the rich judges, the rich prosecutor or lawyer, but we never see that the rich notary. Does the notary produce or earn money a lot or not? Oke, silakan mungkin dijawab dua dulu, nanti kalau ada kita lanjutin lagi.
Oke, ya. Jadi saya jawab dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Oke.
Ya, mengenai pertanyaan pertama, jadi di dalam UJN sendiri itu memang diatur bahwa notaris bisa diberhentikan secara tidak hormat. Jadi jika notaris tersebut melakukan pelanggaran-pelanggaran yang diatur dalam UJN, jadi pelanggaran dalam UJN itu terbagi atas pelanggaran ringan, bisa notaris tersebut ditegur atau diberhentikan secara hormat atau diberhentikan secara tidak hormat gitu. Jadi jika notaris tersebut melakukan melakukan pelanggaran berat yang diatur di dalam UJN, itu mereka bisa diberhentikan secara tidak hormat dari jabatannya, sehingga mereka tidak bisa lagi buka praktek dan memang jabatannya tersebut sesuai yang dicantumkan dalam SK Kemenkumhamnya itu dianggap tidak berlaku lagi itu. Salah satu perbuatan yang berat itu setahu saya seperti jika notaris tersebut dihukum penjara dalam putusan yang mengakibatkan dia dihukum lebih dari 5 tahun. Itu salah satu pelanggaran berat yang dilakukan oleh notaris. Jadi hal tersebut bisa membuat notaris diberhentikan secara tidak hormat dari jabatannya sehingga dia tidak bisa lagi berpraktek. Begitu. Berarti maksudnya bukan dipecat kali ya. Memang notaris ini merupakan pejabat publik, perpanjangan tangan dari negara, tapi dia tidak dipekerjakan oleh negara begitu. Dia merupakan pejabat publik yang punya kantor mandiri sendiri begitu. Lanjut berhubungan dengan pertanyaan kedua yang disampaikan oleh tadi siapa namanya? Gifar. Oke. Apakah notari ini bisa nggak mereka mendapatkan pendapatan yang lebih dari apa tadi hakim, jaksa ya? Ya. Sebenarnya seperti yang saya sampaikan tadi, notaris ini dia tidak digaji oleh negara. Notaris ini dia bekerja atas dasar honorarium yang didapatkan dari klien. Honorarium ini ya tergantung dengan transaksi yang dilakukan oleh notaris. Jadi semakin banyak kliennya, tentu honorarium yang didapatkan juga semakin banyak. Begitu. Cuma tidak ada aturan dari negara tidak memberikan gaji atau pendapatan kepada notaris, tapi ada aturannya, aturan mengenai honorarium, bahwa honorarium yang didapatkan oleh notaris ini maksimal itu biasanya 1% dari nilai transaksinya. Nah, jadi kalau misalnya transaksinya itu gede, lumayan ya tinggal dikali aja 1% begitu. Jadi mengenai pendapatan didapatkan notaris itu tergantung dari banyak klien yang didapatkan oleh notaris. Bisa jadi mungkin bulan ini banyak, nanti bulan depan bisa tidak ada kerjaan, ya itu tergantung dari notaris tersebut. Makanya notaris ini dituntut untuk punya networking yang bagus. Notaris ini dituntut juga tadi seperti yang saya sampaikan, dia harus punya knowledge yang updated, jadi dia bisa dipercaya oleh masyarakat, bisa mendapatkan banyak klien begitu, karena kepercayaan yang dia berikan oleh masyarakat tadi begitu.
Oke, ada lagi pertanyaan dari floor, dari teman-teman mahasiswa berkaitan dengan profesi notaris. Jika belum, saya mau bertanya. Kalau di era sekarang kan kita lihat bahwa menjadi pengacara di dunia yang teknologi semakin maju itu ada tantangannya juga.
Ya.
Apakah ada tantangan juga bagi seorang notaris, gitu ya, jabatan notaris berkaitan dengan perkembangan zaman dan teknologi? Dan bagaimana kemudian notaris harus menyesuaikan diri dengan kondisi tersebut? Kedua, apakah karena kan kita ngajarnya di kelas internasional jadi ada mahasiswa asing misalnya, apakah mungkin bagi mahasiswa asing untuk menjadi bukan mahasiswa, maksudnya orang asing untuk menjadi notaris di Indonesia gitu? Apakah apa syarat menjadi notaris? Apakah harus orang Indonesia atau boleh orang asing menjadi notaris di Indonesia?
Oke. Ya, pertama pertanyaan mengenai tantangan yang dihadapi oleh notaris ya. Jadi memang dengan perkembangan zaman sekarang, salah satu tantangan yang dihadapi notaris adalah dia harus bisa mengikuti perkembangan teknologi sekarang. Apalagi sekarang banyak pekerjaan notaris itu di mana notaris dituntut untuk melek teknologi gitu loh. Karena kan sekarang urusan-urusan mengenai perizinan atau pelaporan segala macam itu kan sudah online ya. Jadi biasanya itu menurut saya itu tantangan bagi notaris yang senior, di mana mereka biasanya mungkin tidak agak gaptek gitu ya dibandingkan dengan notaris-notaris yang junior. Mereka dituntut untuk bisa belajar mengenai hal itu. Kemudian juga tantangan selanjutnya yang kami rasakan sebagai notaris itu salah satunya di mana sekarang banyak perizinan-perizinan ini karena banyak yang bisa dilakukan secara online, bisa dilakukan langsung oleh masyarakat, itu sebenarnya agak mengurangi jasa-jasa yang bisa diberikan notaris sebenarnya sekarang. Jadi program pemerintah kita kan sekarang yang salah satunya itu 4.0 itu kan, di mana segala macam perizinan itu sudah bisa dilakukan secara online, tidak perlu harus datang lagi ke instansi yang terkait gitu. Di mana dulu masyarakat biasanya menggunakan jasa notaris sekalian buat akta pendirian, begitu kan? Mereka akan menggunakan jasa notaris juga untuk mengurus perizinannya. Nah, dari sana sebenarnya itu uh, sudah mengurangi pekerjaan kami gitu. Tapi menurut saya itu jadi notaris itu ikuti perkembangan zaman itu, jadi kita harus bisa cari celah begitulah. Ada sebenarnya karena rezeki itu menurut saya sih sudah diatur ya, sudah diatur. Jadi yang penting kita mengerjakan pekerjaan kita sesuai dengan aturan, mengikuti kode etik, mengikuti UU JN, insya Allah sih ada aja sih rezekinya menurut saya. Ya, pertanyaan kedua mengenai tadi orang asing ya untuk menjadi notaris. Nah, salah satu persyaratan untuk menjadi notaris yang diatur dalam UU JN itu adalah mereka harus warga negara Indonesia. Jadi untuk orang asing tidak bisa untuk menjadi notaris karena syarat utamanya untuk menjadi notaris itu selain untuk umur notaris itu kan minimal umurnya 27 tahun dan harus merupakan warga negara Indonesia. Harus menjalankan pendidikan S2 Magister Kenotariatan dan harus sudah menjalankan kegiatan magang di kantor notaris minimal 2 tahun berturut-turut. Jadi itu syarat-syarat, salah satu syarat utamanya, tapi yang paling utama tadi ya warga negara Indonesia gitu. Jadi kalau memang mau jadi notaris ya harus pindah ke warga negaraan dulu begitu. Iya.
Oke, ada lagi pertanyaan dari teman-teman sekalian berkaitan dengan jabatan notaris dan kode etiknya. Biasanya, karena kemarin kita bicara tentang kode etik hakim dan jaksa.
Ya, oh ya.
Sebagian kasus-kasusnya adalah misalnya perselingkuhan dan sebagainya, pelanggaran kode etiknya. Kalau dalam konteks notaris, apa jenis pelanggaran kode etik yang sering terjadi atau yang sering kerap kali dilakukan oleh jabatan notaris atau profesi sebagai notaris? Kan kemarin kalau kita kemarin kita diskusi tentang hakim,
nah,
ya sebagian besar kode etiknya adalah berkaitan dengan perselingkuhan dan sebagainya. Nah, kalau notaris apa nih yang sering dilanggar?
Menurut saya karena tadi profesi-profesi yang Mas Ari sebutkan tadi itu kan jaksa, hakim itu kan merupakan jabatan yang digaji langsung oleh negara ya. Jadi ada kode etik yang diatur oleh pemerintah, oleh negara itu dapat berpengaruh langsung terhadap kalau misalnya mereka melanggar itu mereka bisa diberhentikan oleh negara kan ya. Nah, uniknya kode etik notaris di Indonesia ini kode etik notaris itu dikeluarkan, diproduksi oleh organisasi satu-satunya notaris yaitu Ikatan Notaris Indonesia. Jadi mereka kode etik notaris yang terakhir itu dihasilkan dari Kongres Luar Biasa di Banten pada tahun 2015. Nah, itu merupakan hasil diskusi panjang antara para anggota notaris menghasilkan kode etik notaris. Nah, anehnya menurut saya ini cukup menarik di mana jika kita melanggar kode etik notaris yang dikeluarkan oleh Ikatan Notaris Indonesia tadi, itu sebenarnya tidak maksudnya konsekuensinya tidak seberat kalau notaris melanggar aturan yang diatur oleh UU JN, di mana aturan UU JN kalau dilanggar itu bisa notaris itu bisa diberhentikan secara tidak hormat. Kalau kode etik notaris yang dilanggar itu konsekuensi terbesarnya adalah notaris tersebut paling dikeluarkan dari organisasi tersebut begitu. Jadi terkait pertanyaan Ari tadi, menurut saya memang notaris ini dituntut untuk menjaga harkat martabat dari jabatannya tersebut ya. Tapi sejauh ini yang saya dengar kalau memang ada kasus perselingkuhan itu ranahnya menurut saya sudah pribadi gitu loh. Tidak ada maksudnya tidak ada campur tangan negara di sana. Kalau terkait jabatan notaris ini, karena dia seperti yang saya bilang tadi, dia itu merupakan perpanjangan tangan negara, pejabat publik, tapi tidak digaji oleh negara begitu.
Oke.
Iya,
Satu lagi,
iya,
Rizka. Kan tadi bilang bahwa ada prohibition to
iya,
handle the family transaction, ya kan?
iya,
Bahwa,
betul.
apakah makna kan kalau dia hakim juga hakim tidak boleh mengerjakan perkara
Iya,
yang
iya,
berhubungan
iya.
dengan keluarganya dia, pun demikian dengan
Ah,
jaksa. Batasan yang dimaksud family transaction itu apakah sama dengan yang diatur seperti dalam KUHP dalam memaknainya atau seperti apa? Siapa yang dimaksud family transaction itu?
Oke, ya. Jadi notaris dilarang untuk membuatkan akta eh, untuk bagi keluarga sedarah dan 3 derajat ke samping. Jadi keluarga sedarah itu mau hubungan ke atas seperti orang tua, kakek, nenek itu tidak boleh, dan ke anak itu tidak boleh. Dan 3 derajat ke samping. 3 derajat ke samping ini maksudnya untuk ipar, untuk sepupu, itu tidak boleh. Jadi jika notaris terbukti membuatkan akta yang diperuntukkan untuk keluarganya atau 3 derajat ke samping tadi, itu maka akibat dari aktanya itu dapat dibatalkan, gitu. Menjadi batal demi hukum, sorry, menjadi batal demi hukum sehingga segala tindakan yang dalam akta tersebut dianggap jadi tidak ada begitu loh. Gitu. Jadi mungkin itu bedanya dengan profesi dari hakim tadi ya, diatur untuk akta yang dibuat ke notaris itu pengaturannya sampai diatur 3 derajat ke samping. Begitu. Tidak hanya keluarga saudara saja.
Oke, ada lagi
Ya.
pertanyaan dari teman-teman? Jika tidak ada, mungkin boleh dikasih motivasi jika teman-teman
Ya.
yang nantinya setelah tamat ingin memilih profesi sebagai notaris, kurang lebih apa pesan-pesannya Rizka kepada adik-adik? Silakan.
Iya. Ya, terima kasih waktunya hari ini sudah mendengarkan paparan dari saya mengenai kode etik notaris. Saran dari saya jika memang ada adik-adik yang berminat untuk menjadi notaris, yang pasti itu syaratnya harus ikut S2 Magister Kenotariatan dan harus magang di kantor notaris minimal 2 tahun. Jadi memang prosesnya sangat panjang ya, sangat panjang dan lumayan rumit begitu. Tapi kalaupun nanti jadi notaris nanti, saran saya untuk selalu ikut perkembangan zaman, selalu update ilmu begitu, dan patuh terhadap kode etik notaris dan UU JN begitu. Cukup sekian dari saya.
Rizka,
Ya,
terima kasih atas
ya,
waktunya dan juga
ya,
tentang sharing atau bicara tentang kode etik sebagai
mm-mm.
profesi notaris. Semoga
Terima
ini
kasih
bermanfaat.
banyak. Ya, terima kasih banyak ya. Thank you for having me today.
Ya, oke,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for.
See you.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.
Oke.